The rental market is slow right now, he said finally. But once we get some new tenants, maybe 6 months. 6 months? I was screaming now. 6 months? Our closing is Monday. Like we said, maybe you should postpone. We can't postpone. The seller won't wait. We'll lose the house and our earnest money and our perfect credit score and… I couldn't breathe. The room was closing in around me. How could you do this to us? We did it for you, Patricia said coldly. That house was a mistake. You're not ready for that kind of responsibility. That wasn't your decision to make. Well, it's made now. The callousness in her voice, the complete lack of remorse. The way she looked at me like I was the unreasonable one for being upset about having my life savings stolen. I left their house shaking, not just angry, devastated, betrayed in a way I didn't know was possible. David was at work, so I called him from their driveway. They spent it, I said when he answered. What? Your parents spent our down payment money. It's gone, David. Gone. There was a long pause. Then, that's not possible. I'm sitting in their driveway right now. They admitted it. They borrowed it for repairs on their rental properties. There has to be some misunderstanding. David, there's no misunderstanding. Your mother just told me to my face that they took our money and we might get it back in 6 months. I'm coming home. Don't go home. Come to your parents' house. We need to deal with this together. But when David arrived 30 minutes later, something had changed. His whole demeanor was different. Defensive. I talked to Dad, he said before he even got out of his truck. It's not what you think. What do you mean it's not what I think? They didn't steal the money. They invested it and the investment went bad. These things happen. I stared at him, at my husband, the man who'd promised to protect me, to build a life with me, to choose me above all others. David, they took our money without permission to fix their rental properties. How is that? Not stealing? Because they're family. Because they were trying to help us make more money. Because sometimes investments don't work out. Whose side are you on? There are no sides, Amber. There's just family trying to figure out a difficult situation. That's when I realized the awful truth. David hadn't just been talking to his father on the phone. He'd been convinced, manipulated, turned against me in the span of a 30-minute conversation. So what happens to our house? David looked at the ground. Maybe this is a sign. Maybe we're not ready. We saved for 18 months. And we can save again. David, we're supposed to close on Monday. I'll call the realtor, explain the situation. What? Situation? That your parents stole our down payment? That our financing fell through? I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. A man who'd just chosen his parents' financial convenience over our shared dreams, over our marriage vows, over me. If you make that phone call, I said slowly, if you just give up on our house to protect your parents from the consequences of their theft, then you're choosing them over us. It's not about choosing, it's exactly about choosing. David met my eyes for the first time since he'd arrived. And in that moment, I knew which choice he was going to make. I'll call the realtor, he said quietly. That night, lying in our bed in our tiny apartment that was supposed to be temporary, listening to David's guilty breathing beside me, I made a choice of my own. I wasn't going to let them get away with this. I wasn't going to smile and pretend this was just a family misunderstanding. I wasn't going to sacrifice my dreams to protect people who'd destroyed them without a second thought. Patricia Walsh had made a mistake when she stole from me. She'd assumed I was weak, that I'd just accept whatever she decided was best for my life. But she was about to learn exactly how wrong she was, because what I did next? Well, let's just say the Walsh family will never underestimate me again. My in-laws took my house down payment, $47,000, gone. vanished from the joint account I trusted them with for 1 week. The money that was supposed to be our future, our first home, our fresh start as a family, stolen by the people who were supposed to love and protect us. How does that even happen? How do you wake up one morning planning to sign mortgage papers and discover your entire life savings has been borrowed without permission? And if you think this story ends with a simple apology and returned money, you're about to be shocked. Because what I discovered next changed everything. I thought I knew about trust, family, and just how far people will go to get what they want. If stories like this hit you in the gut like they hit me, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real family drama that'll make your own relatives look like saints. And honestly, I need to know I'm not alone in this. Drop a comment if you've ever been betrayed by family, because what happened next still keeps me awake at night. Let me take you back to 3 months ago. 3 months when I still believed that marriage meant your family became part of theirs, that in-laws were supposed to be a blessing, not a curse waiting to destroy your life. I'd been married to David for 2 years. 2 beautiful, challenging, growth-filled years where we'd built something real together. We weren't rich. David worked construction. I was a part-time dental assistant while finishing my nursing degree. But we were savers. Disciplined. Savers who'd spent every weekend for the past 18 months clipping coupons, eating ramen, skipping nights out, all for one dream. Our house. Not a mansion, not some Instagram-worthy palace. Just a small 3-bedroom ranch on Maple Street with a fenced yard and enough space for the family we wanted to build. The seller was motivated, the price was right, and after months of searching, we'd finally found it. The down payment was $47,000. Every penny we had, every sacrifice we'd made, every overtime shift David had worked through exhaustion, every time I'd chosen store brand everything over name brands, every birthday and Christmas where we'd given each other homemade gifts instead of bought ones, it all added up to that number. $47,000 sitting in our savings account, ready to make our dream real. But then David's mom, Patricia, got involved. Patricia Walsh had opinions about everything. Where we should live, what we should drive, how we should spend our money, when we should have children, what we should name them when we did. She was one of those mothers-in-law who smiled sweetly while delivering cutting remarks disguised as helpful suggestions. "Oh, Amber, honey, are you sure you want to buy a house in that neighborhood? It seems a little run down for someone with David's potential. Maybe you should wait a few more years, save up more money. You don't want to be house poor like your generation always seems to be. David, sweetie, are you certain this is the right financial decision? Maybe you should talk to your father first." But when she heard we were actually going through with it, when she realized we had the money and the mortgage approval and were signing papers in a week, something shifted. Suddenly, Patricia was our biggest supporter. "Oh, how exciting. Your first home. Frank and I are just so proud of you both. You know, we'd love to help however we can. Frank has experience with real estate transactions from his business days. Why don't you let us review all the paperwork? We just want to make sure you're getting the best deal possible." David ate it up. After months of his mother's criticism, her sudden enthusiasm felt like validation, like approval he'd been craving his entire life. "See, babe? I told you Mom would come around. She just needed time to understand our vision. I should have trusted my gut. Should have remembered that people don't change overnight, especially people like Patricia who'd spent 2 years making it clear she thought I wasn't good enough for her precious son. But I wanted so badly for us to be a real family. For David to have his parents' support. For our future children to have loving grandparents who celebrated our successes instead of questioning our choices. So when Patricia suggested we let them hold the down payment money in their account for the week leading up to closing, for security purposes, honey, bank transfers can be so unpredictable, I hesitated for exactly 30 seconds before agreeing. "It's just for a week," David said, seeing my uncertainty. "Mom and Dad have that premium account with higher insurance coverage. It's actually smarter. Plus, Patricia added with that sweet smile that never quite reached her eyes. This way we can transfer the money directly at closing. Much more professional than showing up with a personal check. Frank, David's father, nodded gravely from his recliner. I've seen deals fall through over payment processing delays. This eliminates that risk entirely. They made it sound so reasonable. So practical, like they were doing us a favor. The transfer was simple. $47,000 moved from our savings account to theirs with a few clicks on my banking app. I watched those numbers disappear from our account and felt a tiny flutter of anxiety. Don't worry, David squeezed my hand. It's just temporary. Patricia beamed at us. You kids are making such a smart decision. We're here to help every step of the way. That was Monday. Closing was scheduled for the following Monday. 7 days. Tuesday passed normally. Wednesday, too. I checked their account balance online. David had given me the login information for transparency, and saw our money sitting there, safe and sound. Thursday morning, Patricia called. Amber, sweetheart. I hope you don't mind, but Frank and I needed to move some money around for tax purposes. Don't worry, your down payment is completely safe, just temporarily in a different account for better interest rates. Warning bells went off in my head. What do you mean moved around? Oh, it's nothing to concern yourself with. Frank knows what he's doing with investments. You'll actually earn a little extra money this way. Patricia, we didn't agree to invest. The money, we need it liquid for closing on Monday. And you'll have it, dear. I promise. Frank's just being smart about maximizing your returns. I called David immediately. Babe, your mom moved our down payment. What do you mean moved it? Into some kind of investment account. She says it's to earn extra money. But David, we need that money available on Monday. There was silence on the other end. Then, I'll call her. An hour later, David called back. It's fine. Dad invested it in some short-term thing that matures Friday. We'll actually make like $300 extra. David, I don't like this. This isn't what we agreed to. Amber, they're trying to help us. Dad knows about investments. It's going to be fine. But it wasn't fine. Friday morning came and went. No maturity, no returned money. When I called Patricia, it went straight to voicemail. Patricia, it's Amber. We need to talk about the money. Please call me back. No response. Saturday morning, I drove to their house. Frank answered the door with a strange expression, part guilt, part defiance. Amber, we weren't expecting you. Where's our money, Frank? He looked over his shoulder toward the kitchen where I could hear Patricia moving around. Come in. We need to talk. My heart started racing. The way he said it, the look on his face, I knew something was terribly wrong. Patricia appeared in the kitchen doorway, and for the first time since I'd known her, she wasn't smiling. Sit down, Amber. I don't want to sit down. I want to know where our down payment is. Frank cleared his throat. There's been a complication. What kind of complication? Patricia's voice was different, harder. The investment didn't perform as expected. The room started spinning. What does that mean? It means, Frank said slowly, that the money is tied up. For how long? Silence. For how long, Frank? We don't know. I actually laughed. It was either laugh or scream, and laughing felt safer. In that moment, you don't know? We're closing on Monday. Monday, 3 days from now. About that, Patricia said. Maybe you should postpone the closing. Postpone the closing? We can't postpone the closing. We'll lose the house. We'll lose our earnest money. Houses come and go, Amber. You're young. There will be other opportunities. That's when it hit me. The careful way they were speaking. The way they wouldn't make eye contact. The complete absence of panic in their voices when they should have been frantic about losing our life savings. You spent it, I said quietly. You spent our money. Now, Amber, you spent our money. Frank stood up. We borrowed it. Temporarily. There's a difference. Borrowed it for what? Patricia and Frank looked at each other. Some kind of silent communication passed between them. Frank's business had some unexpected expenses, Patricia finally said. What business? You've been retired for 5 years. The rental properties, Frank said defensively. We needed to make some repairs to keep the tenants. So you stole our down payment to fix your rental properties? We didn't steal anything. Patricia's voice turned sharp. We're family. Family helps family. Family asks first. Family doesn't just take $47,000 without permission. You gave us permission when you put the money in our account. I stared at her. At this woman who'd smiled at me across countless dinner tables, who'd hugged me on holidays, who'd pretended to welcome me into her family while secretly planning to rob me blind. When will we get it back? Soon, Frank said quickly. Very soon. How soon? Silence again. How soon, Frank? The next morning, I woke up with crystal clear purpose, while David slept beside me, still choosing his parents over his wife even in his dreams. I quietly got dressed and drove to the one place I knew I could get real answers. The Walsh. Family's dirty laundry was about to be aired, and I was going to be the one holding the clothesline. My first stop was Patricia's sister, Linda. Linda worked at the county clerk's office and had never liked Patricia's holier-than-thou attitude. If anyone knew the real story behind Frank's rental property repairs, it would be her. Amber. Linda seemed genuinely surprised to see me standing on her porch at 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning. Is everything okay? You look upset. I need to ask you something about Frank's business dealings. And I need you to be completely honest with me. Linda's expression changed immediately. She glanced around nervously before stepping outside and closing the door behind her. What kind of business dealings? The rental properties. Frank told me they needed emergency repairs. That's why they... I paused, realizing how insane this was going to sound. Linda, they took our down payment money, $47,000. Said it was for rental property repairs. Linda's face went white. Oh, honey. Oh, no. What? What is it? There are no rental properties anymore, Amber. Frank lost them all in foreclosure 6 months ago. The world tilted sideways. What? He was gambling. Casino debts, online poker, sports betting. Patricia thought she could handle it quietly, keep it from David and the rest of the family. They lost everything, the rental properties, their retirement savings, even took out a second mortgage on their house. I sat down hard on Linda's porch steps. So when they said they needed the money for repairs, they probably needed it to keep from losing their house, or to pay off loan sharks. Honey, Frank owes some very scary people a lot of money. How much money? Linda looked around again, then sat down beside me. Last I heard, over $200,000. $200,000. Our $47,000 wasn't going to save Frank Walsh. It was just going to buy him a little more time before his whole world collapsed anyway. Does David know? Patricia made me promise not to tell anyone. She said they were handling it. By stealing from their son? Amber, I'm so sorry. If I'd known what they were planning... I stood up, my mind racing. Linda, I need you to do something for me, and I need you to do it today. What? I need you to pull every public record you can find on Frank and Patricia Walsh. Property records, liens, judgments, bankruptcy filings, everything. Amber, I could get in trouble. They stole our life savings, our entire future, and they're going to get away with it unless someone stands up to them. Linda studied my face for a long moment. Then she nodded. Give me 2 hours. 2 hours later, I had a manila folder full of documents that painted a picture of financial devastation. Frank and Patricia Walsh weren't just in debt, they were drowning. Their house was 3 months behind on payments. They had 17 different creditors, including several that sounded distinctly unpleasant. And most damning of all, they'd filed for bankruptcy protection just 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. Which meant they'd been planning this theft for at least that long. But here's the thing about bankruptcy protection. It only covers certain types of debt. And theft? Well, theft can't be discharged in bankruptcy court. My second stop was the police station. "I'd like to file a report for theft," I told the desk sergeant. "What was stolen, ma'am?" $47,000. That got his attention. Within minutes, I was sitting across from Detective Martinez, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. "Tell me what happened," she said, pulling out a notepad. I told her everything. The money transfer, the lies about investments, the confession about rental property repairs, Linda's revelation about gambling debts and bankruptcy. "Do you have documentation of the transfer?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the banking records. "Here's the transfer from our account to theirs, and here's their account statement showing the money being withdrawn in multiple transactions over the past week." Detective Martinez studied the documents. "And you have their admission? That they took the money without permission?" "I have David, my husband. He was there when they admitted it." "Will he testify to that?" That was the million-dollar question, wasn't it? I don't know. Mrs. Walsh, I'm going to be straight with you. This is a complicated situation. Because you voluntarily transferred the money to their account. A good defense attorney could argue it was a gift. But they lied about why they wanted it. I understand. And that's why I'm going to investigate this as potential fraud. But you need to understand, pressing charges against your in-laws is going to destroy your family relationships permanently. I thought about David's guilty breathing beside me last night. About Patricia's cold smile when she told me houses come and go. About Frank's complete lack of remorse. Detective, my family relationships are already destroyed. They did that when they stole from us. All right then. I'll need you to come in tomorrow and file a formal complaint. Bring all your documentation. What happens then? Then we investigate, and if we find evidence of fraud or theft, we press charges. Walking out of the police station, I felt something I hadn't felt since Friday morning. Power. Control. The Walsh family had made the mistake of thinking I was helpless. They were about to learn otherwise, but I wasn't done yet. My third stop was the most important one. David's workplace. I found him on a job site, hanging drywall with his crew. He looked surprised to see me, then worried when he saw my expression. "Amber, what are you doing here?" "We need to talk." He glanced around at his coworkers. "Can it wait until—" "No, it can't wait." David set down his tools and followed me to my car. "What's going on? You look intense." "I know the truth about your parents' financial situation." David's face went carefully blank. "What truth?" "The gambling debts, the foreclosures, the bankruptcy filing. All of it." For a moment, David just stared at me. Then his shoulders sagged like a deflated balloon. "How did you find out?" "So you knew?" David ran his hands through his hair. "Dad called me this morning, told me everything." "And you weren't going to tell me?" "He asked me not to. Said it would just upset you more." "Upset me more? David, they committed fraud. They lied to us to steal our money." "They're in trouble, Amber, real trouble. Dad owes money to some very bad people. So that makes it okay to rob their son?" "No, but maybe we can help them. Get back on their feet. Maybe this is our chance to be the bigger people." I stared at my husband in complete disbelief. "David, they stole $47,000 from us, our entire life savings, our house down payment, our future, and you want to help them get back on their feet? Their family. I'm your family. I'm your wife, the person you promised to choose above all others. And I do choose you. But that doesn't mean I can just abandon my parents when they need help. They didn't need help, David. They needed money. And instead of asking for it honestly, They stole it. David was quiet for a long moment. Then, what do you want me to do, Amber? Disown them? Never speak to them again? I want you to support your wife when she's been wronged. I want you to demand our money back. I want you to hold them accountable for their actions. And if they can't pay it back right now, then they should have thought of that before they took it. Amber, please, can't we just move forward? Find another house? Save up again? That's when I knew, really knew. David was never going to choose me over his parents. No matter what they did, no matter how badly they hurt us, his loyalty would always be to them first. I filed a police report this afternoon. The color drained from David's face. You what? Theft charges. Fraud charges. I'm pressing charges against your parents for stealing our money. Amber, no, you can't do that. I already did. You have to take it back. No, they'll go to prison. Maybe they should have thought of that before they became criminals. David grabbed my arms. Not hard, but desperately. Amber, please, I'm begging you. Don't do this. Let go of me. I'll get the money back. I'll make them pay us back somehow. How? They're bankrupt, David. They have nothing. I'll take out a loan. Against my truck, against my tools. I'll figure something out. So you'll go into debt to cover up your parents' theft. If that's what it takes to protect my family, yes. I'm your family. You're all my family. I looked at my husband, this man I'd loved, this man I'd built a life with, this man who was willing to sacrifice our entire financial future to protect the people who'd stolen from us. And I felt something inside me break, not break apart. Break free. David, you have a choice to make. You can stand with your wife who was wronged, or you can stand with your parents who are criminals. But you can't do both. Don't make me choose. I'm not making you choose. Your parents made you choose when they stole from us. Your choice now is whether you're going to be my husband or their son. I can be both. Not anymore. David was crying now. Actually crying. Amber, they're going to prison. If you go through with this, my parents will go to prison. Then, maybe, they should have thought of that before they committed a crime. Please. I'll do anything. I'll get a second job. I'll work nights and weekends. I'll sell everything I own. Just don't send my parents to prison. Looking at him, at this broken, desperate man begging me to let his parents destroy our lives without consequences, I felt something I'd never felt before. Relief. Relief that I finally knew exactly who David Walsh was when pushed to choose. Relief that I didn't have to wonder anymore whether his loyalty was to his marriage or his parents. Relief that I could stop trying to be the perfect daughter-in-law to people who'd never seen me as family anyway. I'm going home to pack some things, I said quietly. Pack things? What do you mean, pack things? I mean, I'm leaving you, David. What? No, Amber, no. I'm going to stay at my sister's while the police investigation is ongoing. My lawyer says, it's better if I'm not living with someone who might be considered a co-conspirator. Your lawyer? Oh, did I not mention that? I also hired a lawyer today. We're suing your parents in civil court for the return of our money, plus damages, plus emotional distress. Even if they somehow avoid criminal charges, they're going to pay us back every penny with interest. David was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. You hired a lawyer? Without talking to me? Just like your parents stole our money without talking to me. Amber, this is insane. You're talking about destroying our marriage over money. I'm not destroying our marriage over money, David. Your parents destroyed our marriage when they stole from us, and you chose to protect them instead of your wife. I'm not choosing them over you. Yes, you are. Right now, in this moment, you're choosing them. You're asking me to drop the charges, to let them keep our money, to pretend this never happened. You're asking me to sacrifice my justice so your parents don't face consequences for their actions. How is that not choosing them over me? David opened his mouth. then closed it. Because we both knew I was right. If you go through with this, he said finally, there's no going back. You're right, there isn't. Amber, I love you. I love you too, David. But love isn't enough when you won't stand up for the person you claim to love. I got in my car and drove away, leaving my husband standing in a construction site parking lot, crying. That night, staying at my sister Rachel's house, I got a phone call from Patricia. Amber, sweetheart, David told us about this terrible misunderstanding. What misunderstanding is that, Patricia? About the police report. Honey, there's been some kind of mix-up. We never stole anything from you. You took our money without permission and spent it on your gambling debts. There was a pause. Then Patricia's voice turned cold. I don't know where you're getting your information, but Frank and I are law-abiding citizens. We borrowed some money from our son to help with a temporary cash flow problem. Borrowed implies you asked permission first. We had permission when you put the money in our account. For safekeeping, not for spending. That's not how we understood it. Patricia, I have bank records showing exactly when you withdrew the money and where you spent it. I have documentation of Frank's gambling debts and your bankruptcy filing. I have witnesses who heard you admit you took the money for rental property, repairs, rental properties you don't even own anymore. Another pause, longer this time. What do you want, Amber? I want my money back, all $47,000, plus the $4,000 we're going to lose in earnest money because we can't close on the house, plus interest, plus damages for emotional distress. That's impossible. We don't have that kind of money. Then you should have thought of that before you stole from us. Amber, please. You're talking about sending Frank to prison. Is that really what you want? What I want is justice. What I want is consequences for people who think they can just take whatever they want from others without permission. What I want is for you to understand that actions have repercussions. We're family. No, Patricia. You made it very clear yesterday that I'm not family. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't lie to each other. Family doesn't destroy each other's dreams without a second thought. If you go through with this, you'll lose David. I've already lost David. You made sure of that when you turned him against his own wife. He's not against you. He's trying to protect everyone. By letting you get away with theft? By asking me to sacrifice my justice for your comfort? That's not protecting everyone, Patricia. That's protecting you at my expense. What can we do to make this right? Nothing. It's too late for making it right. Now it's about consequences. I hung up on her. 5 minutes later, Frank called. Amber, you're making a big mistake. Am I? My business associates. They're not the kind of people who like attention from law enforcement. Was Frank Walsh actually threatening me? Are you saying I should be afraid? I'm saying that sometimes when you stir up trouble, trouble finds its way back to you. Frank? Did you just threaten me? I'm just saying, I hung up and immediately called Detective Martinez. They're trying to intimidate me, I told her. Frank just made what sounded like a threat. What exactly did he say? I repeated the conversation word for word. Mrs. Walsh, I want you to document any further contact from them. Don't answer their calls, but let them go to voicemail so we have recordings. And I want you to be very careful about your personal safety. If Frank really does owe money to dangerous people, they might try to pressure you to drop the charges. I'm not dropping the charges. Good. Because I did some digging today and your in-laws have been busy. This isn't their first rodeo with financial fraud. Frank has 2 previous arrests for check kiting, and Patricia was involved in a credit card scam 5 years ago. Charges were dropped both times, but the pattern is clear. They're career criminals. Small time. But yes. Which means they're probably going to try every trick in the book to get you to back down. Threats, guilt trips, sob stories, promises they can't keep. Are you prepared for that? Detective, They stole my life savings and turned my husband against me. I'm prepared for war. All right then. I'll have the paperwork ready for you to sign tomorrow morning. After I hung up, I sat in Rachel's guest room and really thought about what I was doing. Was I destroying my marriage over money? Was I being vindictive? Was I letting anger cloud my judgment? Then I thought about Patricia's cold smile when she told me houses come and go. I thought about Frank's complete lack of remorse. I thought about David choosing their comfort over my justice, and I knew I was doing the right thing. Some people think family means never holding each other accountable. That love means letting people hurt you without consequences. That being the bigger person means absorbing abuse with a smile. But I've learned something these past few days. Sometimes being the bigger person means standing up for yourself. Sometimes love means demanding better treatment. And sometimes the only way to teach people not to hurt you is to make sure hurting you costs them something they care about more than your feelings. The Walsh family was about to learn that lesson the hard way, because tomorrow morning, I was going to sign those charges. Tomorrow afternoon, Frank and Patricia Walsh were going to be arrested for theft and fraud. And by tomorrow evening, this whole mess was either going to bring David to his senses or prove once and for all that he was never really my husband in the first place. Either way, I was going to sleep peacefully for the first time in a week, because justice, it turns out, is a wonderful lullaby. But what happened when those arrest warrants were served? Well, that's when things got really interesting. The next morning at 9 a.m. sharp, I walked into the police station ready to sign those charges. What I wasn't ready for was finding David already there, sitting in Detective Martinez's office, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "What's he doing? Here?" I asked. Detective Martinez looked between us carefully. "Mr. Walsh asked to speak with me about the case. I thought you should hear what he has to say." David stood up when he saw me, his eyes red and desperate. "Amber, please. Before you sign anything, just listen to me for 5 minutes." "David, 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." I sat down across from him, my arms crossed. "Talk." David took a shaky breath. "Last night after you left, I went to see my parents. I was going to convince them to find a way to pay you back, to make this right somehow. And I found Dad in the garage with a gun." My stomach dropped. "What?" "He was going to kill himself, Amber. He said he couldn't face prison, couldn't face the shame of what he'd done." Mom was hysterical, begging him to put the gun down. Detective Martinez leaned forward. "Is he safe now?" "He's in the hospital. Psychiatric hold. Mom called 911 after I got the gun away from him." I felt sick. Whatever I'd expected, it wasn't this. "David, I never wanted—" I know you didn't want this. But Amber, seeing him like that, seeing what this is doing to my family, what this is doing to your family. David, what about what they did to us? I'm not saying what they did was right. It was wrong. It was terrible. It was—" David's voice broke. "But they're still my parents. And I'm still your wife." "I know. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to make a deal with you." I looked at Detective Martinez, who nodded for me to hear him out. "What kind of deal?" David pulled out a piece of paper. "I talked to a lawyer last night. If you agree not to press criminal charges, I'll divorce myself from my parents' finances completely. I'll take out a loan against everything I own, my truck, my tools, everything, and I'll pay you back every penny with interest." "David, and I'll go to counseling. Marriage counseling, individual counseling, whatever you want. I'll do whatever it takes to rebuild your trust." "You'd really do that? You'd cut ties with your parents financially? If that's what it takes? To save our marriage, yes." I studied his face, looking for the manipulation I'd learned to expect from his family. But all I saw was exhaustion and desperation, and something that looked like genuine remorse. And what happens when they need money again? When Frank gets out of the hospital and needs gambling debt money? When Patricia calls crying about losing their house? I'll say no. Will you? Really? Because yesterday you were ready to mortgage our entire future to protect them. David was quiet for a long moment. Yesterday I thought I could save everyone. Today I realize that trying to save everyone means losing the person who matters most. Detective Martinez cleared her throat. Mrs. Walsh, I have to advise you that accepting this deal means giving up your right to pursue criminal charges later. Once you agree to this, that's it. But the civil suit can still proceed? Yes, the civil suit is separate. I looked at David, really looked at him. At the man who'd worked double shifts so we could save for a house, who'd rubbed my feet after, long days at the dental office, who'd held me when I cried about difficult patients and celebrated with me when I aced my nursing exams, the man who'd also chosen his parents over me when it mattered most. David, if I agree to this, if I give up criminal charges and let you pay me back instead, I need to know you understand what that means. What do you mean? It means you're admitting your parents committed a crime. It means you're accepting that they stole from us. It means you can never again make excuses for what they did, or ask me to just let it go when they hurt us. David nodded slowly. I understand. And it means that if they ever, and I mean ever, try to manipulate money out of us again, if they ever lie to us again, if they ever put their financial problems on our shoulders again, I will press charges. No second chances, no family meetings, no negotiations. Straight to the police. Understood. And David, this is the last time. The last time I choose your promise over my principles. The last time I let family loyalty override justice. If you break this agreement, if you choose them over me again, there won't be another chance to make it right. David's eyes filled with tears. Amber, I swear to you, on everything I hold sacred, I swear I will never put you in this position again. Detective Martinez spoke up. Mrs. Walsh, before you make this decision, I want you to know that we've uncovered more evidence since yesterday. Your in-laws have been running small-scale financial scams for years. If you press charges, we'll probably uncover more victims. Other people they've stolen from. That hit me like a punch to the gut. Other people? Elderly neighbors, church members, distant relatives. Small amounts, but it adds up. Frank's gambling problem is just the tip of the iceberg. These are people who prey on trust. I thought about Mrs. Henderson next door to the Walsh house, who'd mentioned lending Frank money for car repairs that never seemed to happen. About Patricia's claims that the church needed donations for mission work that somehow never materialized. How? Many people had they done this to? But then I looked at David, and I saw something I hadn't seen since this nightmare began. Genuine shame. Not just embarrassment at being caught, but actual moral horror at what his parents had become. If I press charges, I asked Detective Martinez, what happens to the other victims? They'll probably never get their money back. Frank and Patricia will go to prison, but their assets will be tied up in legal proceedings for years. And if I don't press charges? You set a precedent. You show them that family loyalty trumps consequences. And they'll probably do it again to someone else. The weight of that decision settled on my shoulders. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about every future victim, Patricia and Frank. Walsh would create if they learned they could steal without real consequences. But it was also about my marriage. My future. The man sitting across from me who was finally choosing me over his parents. David, I said slowly, I need you to understand something. If I do this, if I take this deal instead of pressing charges, it's not just about the money. What do you mean? I mean your parents have probably stolen from other people, elderly people, church members, people who trusted them just like we did. David's face went white. Other people? If I don't press charges, if I let them, think they can just pay their way out of consequences, they'll do this again, to someone else. Maybe someone who can't afford to lose what they steal. I didn't think about that. So when you're asking me to take this deal, you're not just asking me to forgive what they did to us. You're asking me to potentially sacrifice other victims so we can avoid family drama. David was quiet for a long, long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. What do you think I should do? I think you should stop asking me to make the hard decisions for you. Amber! David, for the past week, I've had to be the one demanding accountability. I've had to be the one insisting on consequences. I've had to be the one protecting our interests while you protected your parents. Now you're asking me to decide whether to press charges or not. When do you start making the hard choices? David looked at Detective Martinez, then back at me. What would happen if I testified against my parents? If I helped build the case against them? Detective Martinez raised an eyebrow. That would significantly strengthen our case. Your testimony about their admission of guilt, combined with the financial records, would probably guarantee convictions. And the other victims would have a better chance of getting justice? Yes. David was quiet again, wrestling with something internal. Finally, if I testify against my parents, if I help you build a case against them, will you consider giving our marriage another chance? I stared at him. You'd do that? You'd testify against your own parents? If it's the right thing to do, yes. Even knowing it means they'll definitely go to prison? Even knowing that. For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw the man I'd married. The man who'd once told me he'd choose what's right over what's easy, even when it hurt. David, if you're just saying this because you think it's what I want to hear, I'm not. Amber, seeing Dad with that gun last night, it made me realize something. My parents aren't just people who made a mistake. They're people who've been making the same mistake over and over again, hurting people over and over again. And every time someone like me makes excuses for them or covers for them or bails them out, we're enabling them to hurt more people. So, what are you saying? I'm saying I want to do the right thing, even if it destroys my relationship with my parents forever, because the alternative is being complicit in their crimes. Detective Martinez looked impressed despite herself. Mr. Walsh, are you sure about this? Testifying against your parents isn't something you can take back. I'm sure. I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness. That would take time. But hope. For the first time since David had chosen his parents over me, I saw a glimpse of the man who'd promised to choose me above all others. Okay, I said finally. Here's what we're going to do. Both David and Detective Martinez leaned forward. We press charges. Full criminal prosecution. David testifies. We make sure Patricia and Frank Walsh face real consequences for what they've done, and we make sure other victims get justice. David nodded, relief and terror warring on his face. But, I continued, David also pays me back every penny of our money, with interest within 6 months. Not because I'm dropping charges, but because what his parents stole from us shouldn't have to wait for a court settlement. Agreed. And we go to counseling. Both of us. Because this mess has revealed some serious problems in how we handle conflict and family loyalty. Agreed. And David, if your parents try to guilt you about testifying, if they try to make you feel bad for betraying family, you remember that they betrayed family first when they stole from us. I will. I turned to Detective Martinez. What do you need from us? I need Mr. Walsh to come in this afternoon to give his formal statement. I need all the financial documents you've gathered. And I need both of you to be prepared for this to get ugly. When people are facing serious prison time, they don't go down quietly. She was right about that. The arrests happened 3 days later. I wasn't there, but David was, testifying before the grand jury that indicted his parents on charges of theft, fraud, and elder abuse. They'd found evidence that Patricia had been systematically stealing from church members for over 2 years.